Good evening and welcome to Legal Aid Explained. I'm Adam Salzman, your host. The show is a project of Greater Chicago Legal Clinic, a legal aid organization that's been serving the poor and the working poor in Chicagoland since 1981. And one particular area of emphasis for Greater Chicago Legal Clinic and its work in the community over these past several decades has been immigration. And I'm very pleased to have with us today Mr. Joel Stopka, who is one of our immigration attorneys at the clinic. We're going to discuss Joel's work at the clinic, his time with us, how he has come to be a major part of our organization, and also the different types of immigration cases we handle. And if at any time during this viewing you find yourself hearing something that's relevant to you and your life and you need some assistance, you can always give Greater Chicago Legal Clinic a call, 312-726-2938, and we have some splendid attorneys like Mr. Stopka over here available to assist you with your issue. Joel, welcome.
Well, thanks for having me on. I'm excited.
Yeah, so am I. As I said to your colleague Ina Winston last week, we're so busy at the office we rarely get to chat there, and it's kind of a sad commentary that we have to go on television to have a proper discussion, but I'll take it where I can get it. Joel, you've been with the clinic for some time now. What year did you join the organization?
I joined the Chicago Legal Clinic in 2005. I just graduated from law school, and I was put in contact with the founder, Ed Grossman, and the clinic was starting up a project with foreclosure in the Cook County legal system. So it was a part-time position. And I enjoyed it immensely, but in 2009, of course, with the, not the pandemic, but the financial crisis. I want to say pandemic for everything, but no, it was a financial crisis. Obviously, things started to explode, and that whole program grew from just a few attorneys to 6 or 7. And so I stayed with that for quite a while. And then after that, around 2019 is when I shifted over to immigration and started doing the immigration practice.
So that's a big time jump, and we're going to spend most of our time talking about your work in immigration. I do want to back up a little bit because your history with the clinic and your history just as a professional and an advocate I've always found pretty interesting. So 2005, the part-time position that you got was with a program that's situated in the Cook County Circuit Court, correct?
Correct.
And that is mainly focused around the issue of foreclosure and people dealing with housing instability.
Correct. I mean, it was focused on foreclosure. Also, we did do some administrative law, appeal decisions and things of that nature, but primarily homeowners.
Because those cases, foreclosure cases and administrative law cases, are in the same division of the circuit court, which is called the Chancery Division.
Correct. It's in Chancery.
And so back in those days, we called it the Chancery Advice Desk, right? And you mentioned eventually, if you play the tape forward to 2009, the volume of cases got much higher because, as a lot of folks will remember, we had a major recession and a major collapse in the housing market. And was that the point at which you went from part-time to full-time?
It was around that time. I mean, as the problem grew, obviously, really exploded. More resources were made available in order to deal with the massive influx of people going through foreclosure.
Yeah. And the interesting thing about that is housing instability and its impact on our economy. It sort of waxes and wanes, and sometimes it's greater and sometimes it's lesser. But whatever phase you're in, it always seems like it's going to last forever until it doesn't. And on some future episode, we'll talk about the clinic's work in the area of housing and how we have played a role in helping to alleviate the impact of these fluctuations on people who have less means to be able to handle it on the private market than others. But we're grateful for your contributions on that project. I also know that at some point you took an interlude to assist the 44th President of the United States in his election. Is that right?
Yeah, that's true. I guess my sabbatical was taking about 8 months to work on President Obama's re-election campaign.
And tell me a little bit about that. Where did you go and what did you do?
I mean, I went to North Carolina. I worked in Burlington, which is in Alamance County. It's an old textile area, still a textile area, but used to be one of the epicenters of textile production in the United States.
Was this during the general election or
This
was
was
it primary?
2000. Yeah, this is well. There's definitely. I don't think there's primaries. I mean, it was 2012, so it was just straight.
Oh, 2012. Okay,
Yeah,
right.
so-
Not 2008.
No, not 2008.
Gotcha.
So I was down there from basically March until November of
Until
that year.
November.
It's a fantastic experience. Great people in North Carolina. Made a lot of great friends down there. Met a lot of great people.
Decent weather.
Yeah, but definitely better in the winter than here.
Yeah, yeah.
As you got towards the fall.
Yeah. I've always thought that must have been a pretty fascinating experience, and I sort of envy you that experience a little bit. And it had to have framed your work coming back to the clinic in a different light, just having the opportunity to get involved in national politics on that level.
Yeah, it was a very rewarding experience for sure.
Okay, and so as I mentioned earlier, the sort of back and forth of the housing market meant that for our housing work, there were times where we were staffed with a number of attorneys and very, very busy, helping folks handle foreclosure and other housing-related matters. And then there were times where we had to really trim back because the housing market was more stable, which sort of necessitated shifting resources at the clinic. And fast forward to 2019, and you found yourself on our immigration team, which was very fortunate for us. For one, you are one of the attorneys at the clinic who's bilingual, which was foremost in our mind where we decided to reassign you. And also, you happen to be one of our more compassionate and attentive and diligent attorneys, just period. So we were grateful to have the option of placing you in that program. And I wanted to focus the rest of our discussion on the clinic's immigration program. It's one of the earliest features of what the clinic has done. When I interviewed to become executive director of the clinic back in late 2016, early 2017, and I met with the founders of the clinic, I was told that one of the earlier names for the clinic was the South Chicago Legal Clinic for Immigrants. And in those days, it was focused not just on Spanish-speaking immigrants, but also, and we still work with with this population, but Polish immigrants. And anybody who's familiar with Chicago knows that Chicago provides an intersection of immigrants from all manner of countries and backgrounds. Can you tell me a little bit about what services the clinic offers through its immigration program and how people might be able to get help?
Sure. The immigration program at the Greater Chicago Legal Clinic focuses on a variety of issues. So it can range from helping undocumented immigrants to helping someone who has their green card get their citizenship. So there's a wide range of services. Just to list a few, we work with U-Visa, we help with those applications, adjustment of status petitions, asylum, temporary protective status, VAWA applications. We also do DACA renewals. We also do family petitions and help U.S. citizens or green card holders bring relatives from overseas to the United States. And like I mentioned earlier, citizenship and green card renewal. So those are just a few. If you're interested to see our services, you can always go to our website.
So that's a pretty wide range, and one of the things that I think is a strength of Greater Chicago Legal Clinic is the flexibility we have to meet people where they are, especially whatever their economic circumstances might be, and provide them with the services that they need. Other organizations, just because of the way they're funded, might be a lot less flexible than us. But we have a small but mighty and also nimble team of immigration advocates. Tell us a little bit about who else is on the immigration team and what they do.
Sure. Besides myself, there's Anna Winston, who was on previously. She is an encyclopedia of immigration law. She's been doing it for quite some time. Extremely knowledgeable, extremely dedicated. So as a coworker, I feel so blessed to have her as someone to go to and someone to work with. We also work with the Access to Justice program in Illinois. So they've helped us to get a paralegal, Nadia Castillo. And then we also work with interns from the Amate House program, and then also the various law schools. Right now we have an intern from the USC Law School.
And who's that intern?
That intern is Myra Hussar.
Okay. And those interns and also Amate House fellows are tremendously helpful and a big part of what we do, I know. Let's talk a little bit more about case types. I think that it's important for people to understand that when you're talking about immigration law, it's not always that clear cut, and you're helping people who are coming from a variety of situations. Not always even necessarily completely undocumented. Sometimes there are, as you say, status adjustments that are necessary and other types of tweaking, and then sometimes it really is that sort of stereotypical undocumented need to secure their status type of situation. Tell me what a U visa is, and tell me how that might be helpful for some of the people we serve.
Sure. A U visa is a visa that's available for someone, for an immigrant who has suffered a crime in the United States. So the person must have been a victim of a crime, suffered either psychological trauma or were actually hurt in the process. They have to be willing to help police or have helped police or are helping police. And then if they meet those standards, those are the basics, then what's available to them is a visa. And you can be someone who's here documented, maybe unfortunately you were a tourist or something. It's possible. But mainly it can help an undocumented worker. There's a waiver available for them for that.
So that's an important thing for people to be aware of if you have unfortunately been victimized by criminal activity during your time in the United States and you require some kind of clarification of status, a U visa may be right for you. Other forms of status adjustment. Can you tell us about some of those? Give us some examples.
I mean, people can adjust their status based on a marriage petition.
So in other words, if your status in the country is unresolved or undocumented, but you have the opportunity or you are getting married to somebody whose status is secure and legal, that's a way for you to obtain status, or is that...
There is a possibility that way if you've entered the United States with what we call with inspection.
Right.
So you pass through and you got stamped by Border Patrol or Customs. If you've remained in the country and you marry a U.S. citizen, there is a chance for you to apply for a green card and adjust in the United States and complete the entire process here.
Yeah.
There's also people who, they marry someone. They marry a U.S. citizen, and if they're still in the country, that U.S. citizen spouse can petition to bring them over, and through that route, they can become a U.S. citizen through consular processing. So it's another route. If they're already here, and let's say they get their green card and 2 years has passed, then at that point they can adjust their status to get a more permanent resident card.
Gotcha. So all very important information. Couple of others sort of subject areas that I'd like to touch on with you. They're frequently in the news, and one is asylum. And I'm wondering if you could talk about what asylum is and what populations that's particularly relevant to right now.
Sure. Asylum, as people have seen in the news, I think one country that has had a lot of people coming to the United States seeking asylum is from Venezuela. There's a lot of people there that are suffering under the Maduro regime. So they've decided to come to the United States and seek asylum. And recently, if you've seen in the news, Texas bust up some people who were arrested at the border. But even before then, there have been quite a few Venezuelans coming to Chicago seeking asylum basically for political reasons. So you can seek asylum for political reasons, race, religion, nationality, or if you belong to a particular social group. So they've been coming mainly on the political asylum track. So we're doing several cases with Venezuelan asylees.
Gotcha.
And trying to help them get through the process. There's also, INA has taken on quite a few cases with Afghanis. Again, if you look at the news, and or if you can remember, we had the massive evacuation about a year ago. Yeah, about a year ago, I think, this month, if I remember correctly. In any event,
it's already been a year is remarkable. But,
yeah, and so there's a lot of Afghans that left the United States, and a lot of them are applying for asylum to try to remain in the United States. So.
Right, left Afghanistan, fleeing both repressive and dangerous circumstances, and are seeking refuge.
That one I think is a little more obvious. You're working for the previous government, a new government comes in. There could be some issues if you were to remain in that country with such a change, in leadership.
So very important work. And the last subject area I wanted to touch on before we just get into a couple more matters, we're running a little bit low on time, is DACA. DACA is talked about very frequently in the news and in the national political discussion. Can you tell me what DACA is and what the clinic does around that?
Yeah, DACA allows people who basically came over with their parents, so didn't have much choice in the matter of coming over. They came over, they're undocumented. DACA allows those people to work in the United States. So it was started under President Obama. There's been a lot of political football with it. It can change. What actually happens with DACA can change with who's in the Oval Office. But as it currently stands, anyone who has DACA can renew their DACA, and we help with that. It's a relatively straightforward process.
Yeah.
And,
An important tool in the toolbox.
yes.
Finally, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the Access to Justice program that the clinic is a part of. It's an initiative of the state of Illinois. It's something that was enacted by the General Assembly and something that provides resources to organizations like ours to continue to do this kind of work. Can you tell me a little bit about Access to Justice, or A2J as it's
Yeah,
called?
Access to Justice, yes, as you mentioned, was a program started by the state of Illinois. It's expanded over the years, and it's, well, I don't want to misspeak about it, but it has two components, and one of those components is immigration. And we've been lucky enough, there's money that's available for community navigators who can help immigrants with a host of just regular life issues, and then there's a legal aspect. So that's where we come in, and I mentioned some of the programs that are covered, by Access to Justice are the U visa program, which we talked about, or asylum, adjustments, getting work permits, things of that nature. It's been a great program for the immigrant community in Chicago. We're very lucky to have, such funding from the state. And it's allowed the Chicago Legal Clinic to expand its services and do more for the immigrant community in Chicago.
So we're very fortunate to have that tool. I want to again remind our viewers that if you are someone who you think might benefit from these services, we would encourage you to contact Greater Chicago Legal Clinic, 312-726-2938. We have several advocates and attorneys like Joel available to assist you. And we also are looking forward to holding several community events where we can educate folks about our services and maybe provide you with some additional background that is a little bit more nuanced than what we're able to get into on television. Joel, we have a few minutes remaining, and I was wondering if, with full attention being paid to the requirements of confidentiality and ethics, you might be able to share with us some details from a case that was particularly profound and rewarding for you to work on, and why it was significant for you.
Sure. Well, one case that, I should say, two cases that I'm currently working on have to deal with asylum. And in both cases, the asylees came over with their children, and being able to work and help them in the process, which can be very difficult, especially since you're going to be dealing with a court situation. You have to deal with monitoring situations.
And by monitoring, are you talking about making sure that they inform the government of their whereabouts and?
Correct. Yeah. If you've been arrested, they used to do ankle monitoring. Now it's kind of up in the air. Like, they still might do that. But in terms of my clients, they're able to either check in through their smartphones or check in through other means, so that the government, can know where they're at, what they're doing, and they're having, well, I guess they wouldn't care if they fled the country, but
right.
but just to keep tabs on them and know exactly where they're at. So, in any event, to be able to help them in that kind of situation, I find very rewarding. I think it takes a lot, and this would go for any type of immigrant situation. I think when you talk about immigrants, they're giving up a lot when they leave. So no matter which client we're helping, they're leaving family behind, they're leaving culture behind, they're leaving support networks and things of that nature, and they're going an incredible distance for a better life. So to actually just see them, to see them more at ease and relaxed and things of that nature, I think is extremely rewarding, in the process. And then of course, being able to succeed and either get them what they need. So again, speaking more generally, whether it's a simple, DACA renewal, or maybe helping them, get their adjustment to, off of their marriage, green card, things of that nature, to see their smiles and to see their lives, continue. I find the whole practice very rewarding.
That's why we do the work, right?
Yeah.
Well, Joel, I want to thank you for being with us, and I want to thank you, viewers, for tuning in to Legal Aid Explained. We will see you next time.